Okay, welcome to Video Oil P5J005. This is the fifth in a series of videos where I'm showing you how to code a stylized version of the von Neumann architecture diagram that you can see on the screen right here. In the last video, I showed you how to open CorelDRAW and start adding simple shapes and guides that we can use ultimately as a reference in order to code the solution in p5.js. So what I'm going to do now is actually open up p5.js. So this is kind of like the reference site where you can find out everything there is to know about p5.js. We're actually on the reference page itself, so anything that you can or want to do with p5.js, it's going to be found here. I'm going to right mouse click and open link in a new tab, and I'm going to go to the editor. So I'm going to log in. Okay, now to get to the project that we started 3-4 videos ago, I'm going to go into my sketches and click on Von Army Truck. Okay, so this is basically how we left it. If you remember, we edited the style to position the canvas in the middle of the screen, and in here we changed the size, which matches the size of our design. So all we need to do now is actually go in here and choose a shape. Now, if I remember rightly, there was a triangle here. Now, just to make it easier to see what I've coded and what I haven't, I'm going to change the color. So let's have a look. So it's a triangle. So I'm going to go to p5.js. I'm going to go Control F on the keyboard and type in triangle. So here's triangle. Now, in order to construct a triangle, you basically need to give it 6 coordinates. The X and Y position for each of the corners of the triangle. So I'm just going to save time, copy that, and I'm going to Control V, paste that in. Now obviously this triangle has no relationship to my diagram whatsoever. So going back to CorelDRAW, I'm going to start bottom left. So I'm going to click up here. So it's 160 in from the left, 336 down. So see if I can remember this. 160, 336. So 160, 336. Now remember that all objects are positioned relative to the top left corner in p5.js. So that's the first coordinate. Then I'm going to go top right, 170 by 200. And finally, bottom right, 170, 336, 336. So if we now run that, there we have our triangle. It is in the correct place, but as you can see, it's not in the color that we've chosen. Now, for the purposes of just kind of sketching things out before I start thinking more about colors and things like that, I want to be able to just change it to some kind of default color. So I'll go back here and I'll see. Now I've used this before, so I know that to change the color of an object that you're going to draw, you have to change its fill. It's a bit like dipping a paintbrush that you're going to use to paint a shape into a paint pot. So from memory, I think if you just give the fill function a single parameter, the parameter is the bit inside the brackets here in pink purple, it gives you a color in the range from white to black, so it will give you a grey colour. Or you can actually give it a colour using 3 values. This is red, green, and blue. You can also give it certain words that are colours. Red, I guess they're common, maybe pink. You can also add hexadecimal colour references, so it's pretty flexible. But basically, to effectively fill my paint pot, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to type red. So now everything that is drawn after I change this or dipped my pen, my brush in the paint pot, everything from this point forward will now be drawn in red. Okay. Now the naggy thing at the moment is the line, the outline. So I'm going to go now in most drawing programs. The outline is drawn using a pen. Now it doesn't like that. So let me go back and have a little scooch down the page, shape. Let's have a look. Outline, maybe I could see outline. Let's have a look. I think what I'm trying to show you is the idea that you have to hunt around for the solution sometimes. Pen, stroke. That rings a bell. It's a stroke. So if I go stroke, I also saw something called no stroke. So if we just hunt around, okay. So no stroke effectively looks like it turns the stroke off. So that looks like, so effectively what's going to happen is, if we just look at this code, this is what is executing continuously as the page is being displayed. It's setting the background color to 250, which is kind of like a white, an off-white. It's then turning the stroke off, filling the paint pot or the paintbrush with red, and then it's drawing this triangle. And it's doing that, let's say 60 frames a second, depending on the FPS rate. So what I'm going to do now is start to add a few more shapes. So here's another one. Change it to this new color so I can see that I've done it. I'm going to start bottom left, 96 by 354. 96 by 354. Just going to copy and paste, Control V. I've already forgotten what the numbers were. 96 by 354. Let's just check that. 96 by 354. I think at this point, actually, it might make more sense to actually reorganize my page or my applications so that I can see both elements at the same time, thus improving my workflow, hopefully. Now, if I just move that in there like that, and I zoom in a little bit. Okay, that's better. I can now actually interact with both of these applications without having to flick between the two applications. So 96 by 354. I come over 160 by 326. 60 by 236. And finally, bottom right, 160 354. And I'm just going to test that. Oh, my first syntax error. Syntax errors are basically errors that mean that the computer doesn't understand what you're telling it to do. Oh, that doesn't look right. You see why I'm testing? It doesn't look at all right. So let's go back. Bottom left, 96 by 354. Top right, 160 by 326. This is why it's important to check and test as you go along. Right, now let's just, that looks right. That looks perfect. Okay. Now, one of the things that we can do, you notice I keep having to pull the screen to see what's going on here. So if I go File, Save, and I go Share, and then just hit full screen, what it does is it opens this up in a completely new tab, which means that I can just click between the two. Okay, one more shape. Let's try a rectangle this time. So get my reference up here. Okay, rectangle. Let's go back to reference. Actually, let's just scooch down shapes, ellipse, square, oh, rectangle. That looks like what we're looking for. So a rectangle, okay, it's an X and Y position, which I'm assuming is to the top left corner, and then a width and a height. So if I now go back here and I paste in the rectangle, so I need an X and Y coordinate to the top left corner, 96 by 354. 96 by 354, and it needs to be 64 pixels wide. Notice I'm looking up here, and 126 pixels deep. If I now, wow, it's good. Okay, one thing I didn't do was change the color. So let's try this one now. We'll do one more, and then what I'll do is I'll stop the video, complete it, and then come back to the video with a more complete version a little bit later on. Okay, let's just do one more. So again, top left, 170. So 170 by 200. And the width and height is 474 by 136. Let's just, now if we go back here, actually I think what we need to do is go File, Save, flick here, refresh. Now we're talking. Okay. So as I said, what I'll do now is I'll continue with this, and then in a few seconds from now, the video will change to the next portion, and hopefully this thing will be a lot more complete. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. So what I've done while you've been away, just want to say as well, so here's the p5.js file. To save it, you can just hit Control-S on your keyboard and then refresh. So here's where we're at the moment. This is the main chassis for the CPU. There is a slight glitch thing going on here, but maybe I'll come back at a later date and a later time and look at that. So a couple more things that I think are significant. Now, as you can see, all of this code, all of this chunk of code goes into making that one shape. And if you imagine how many other bits and pieces of shapes, chunks of the diagram, which we're going to have to, basically the more complex the code gets, the more difficult it is to find things that are wrong or things that you might need to change within the code. So I started from the left and moved to the right. So each one of these shapes kind of traverses from left to right. It's also really useful, actually, to help with your coding. to actually add notes. So what I do is it's a forward slash and then an asterisk. And that's basically anything inside those, the computer will ignore. So we can add notes in here. So I'm going to so main CPU chassis. Okay. So what I want to do now is just show you, or start to show you, main CPU undercarriage. Basically, I'm trying to show you how you really need to get organized. The more code you have, the more painful it is when something goes wrong or you need to change something. So adding little notations in here, even down to the point where I think you can also use, for single lines, you can also use single strokes. Now, let's just look, see what they've done here. Single stroke actually will suffice. So we could actually replace that with a single, 2 forward slashes. The idea with a forward slash and then an asterisk is that you can actually block out asterisk, forward slash, whole lines, you know, lines and lines of your code, if that's what you want to do. But a double slash will suffice if you just want one line. So I'm going to jazz this up a little bit. Control C, Control V, main CPU undercarriage. Right, I'm now ready to start doing the undercarriage. Now, the stroke can remain off, but this time, a la my drawing over here, I'm going to change this to yellow. Let's see what happens. Okay, so from this point forward, I just do exactly the same thing. So I'm just going to do one, and then I'll end this video, and hopefully in a subsequent video, I'll show you this whole process complete. You can start to see as well why it's so important to really spend a lot of time getting your diagram nicely positioned and sized so that when you get to the coding part, it really is as easy as copying and pasting and changing the numbers. So the first shape I want to introduce is a triangle. Now remember, the fill literally kind of dips the paintbrush into a paint pot, and anything from that point will be painted or drawn in yellow. So bottom left, 96514, 96,514, 96,480. And then bottom right, 538,514. Okay. Control S, refresh. Okay, this is looking good. Okay, I think I've pretty much given you everything that you need to continue with this. Remember, you use your CorelDRAW to select and then a shape, then just to help you see what you've done and what you haven't, change the color, and then use this menu up here, the object origin, to get the coordinates that you need to draw the shapes. If you're doing a rectangle, remember it's the coordinate, top left, and then the width and height of the rectangle. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next video.